This is the Social Ledger Report, and welcome to another episode. We actually want to talk about XRP real quick. XRP in the last few days has gone down a little bit, but something I want to talk about is just how the whole lawsuit has kind of ended with XRP. So more people are selling right now than buying, I suppose, based on the market performance. So safe to say that the XRP Ripple lawsuit has been pretty much over with the SEC. The story, I don't know if you guys remember or if you remember, Leon, how the story came up to where we saw probably one of the most influential lawsuits in the whole crypto market. And so it all kind of started in December 2020 when the SEC filed a lawsuit against Ripple for selling and raising over 1.3 billion through quote unquote unregistered securities. And that was through the token sale of XRP. And then the SEC argued that XRP was qualified as a security under the POE test because Ripple controlled its supply and actively promoted the value of XRP, the token. So the sale should have been registered to protect investors. That's kind of how it went. And then eventually, after the SEC and Ripple kept going at it for the last few years, in July 2023 is when we saw a key court ruling that found XRP is not a security when sold on public exchanges because it is a security when sold directly to institutional investors. This created a split outcome and a partial win for both sides. It's kind of important to understand that because public exchanges, according to this ruling, does not constitute that cryptos are securities, which is kind of like what happens for all tokens, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything. So this is why it's kind of a big deal here because again, every token is sold through public exchanges, and even for those that are not in public exchanges, like with swap exchanges, like Uniswap, PigSwap, you name it. This means those are not registered securities. As of August 7, the whole lawsuit concluded and Ripple only agreed to pay 125 million fine, but it still remains as a public sale status as far as the XRP token goes. And it's just not under security. So that means it's a pretty big win, not only for XRP, but for the entire crypto industry as a whole. But yeah, do you remember we were talking about XRP a while ago and how it's kind of an exciting token to put your money on right now? Not like
Yeah,
financial advice, but like we're going to start accumulating.
yeah. Like I started buying some. I think we were in Toronto, and somebody told me that XRP could be on, a tear towards October time, saying once the SEC stuff gets solved, there's banking charters that could come, and that was all the way back in May. It's shaping up that way. There's still some interesting parts. I don't know if they're going to be worth $5, $6, but it does look like a strong token because if they get their own banking charter, they could be really powerful. And then if they like do something unique within the banking networks, they could turn into something that's like kind of rivaling the stablecoin stuff, or gets wrapped in a stablecoin and is usable. It's going to be interesting to kind of see and watch. I do like that the case is solved, that it says that this isn't a security, and that's like the most important part, that they're just withdrawing that. I also think the reason that they were still in that legal lawsuit was just essentially the SEC was going to drop the fine a little bit or change the injunction or something. So them closing, it's the end of the saga for Ripple, and hopefully they can focus on building.
Absolutely. So you mentioned stablecoins. They're actually Ripple, the company behind XRP, did release their own token. It's called the R all you. I'm sorry, R. I have an accent. R is what I'm trying to say. R as in Romeo. L USD. So they have their own stablecoin. I don't know what they're trying to do with it. Maybe they'll finally have some time to be able to do that. But everything that Ripple wanted to do, which is kind of like the reason they exist, is to make bank payments faster and easier. I forget how the story goes, but pretty much the previous guy who was running the SEC before Gary Gensler, he was making ties with the current CEO of Ripple, and they got into a dispute. I don't remember the details. They got into a dispute, and then they just battled it out. SEC sued Ripple, and that's kind of what created everything. Before that, Ripple was pretty much about to be in banking systems as far as making remittance payments, sending money overseas, sending money to people in general. And then that's where we are right now. So interesting. I guess now that, there's no more chains on the SEC, it kind of unleashed the full potential of what could happen. That's kind of a good indicator of where the crypto space is going to go now. It's going to be just build, ship, and innovate, which is probably one of the most exciting times we live in. But just a final thing, just because the settlement reached a conclusion in August or August 7th, everything right now in this last week has been kind of like procedural court stuff. Like the Court of Appeals must formally dismiss the appeal for the case to be officially closed. So while that is being talked right now, it is very likely that it will. Like, there's nothing that I think that anybody thinks that could open up that lawsuit because there's just been so many procedures, so many court hearings that it would be dumb to open it, you know, especially under the current administration that we have. It's pretty much case closed.